The late convicted sex offender and financier Jeffrey Epstein, a useful idiot for the Israeli state. Former Israeli spy Ari Ben Menashe on the hidden links between a paedophile and a British prince. All this and more coming up in part 2 of Going Underground. Welcome back. On Wednesday, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, de facto back to the hilt by President Trump's deal of the century, is set to push ahead with further illegal annexations of Palestine's occupied West Bank. But as Boris Johnson's Britain sells record amounts of arms to Israel, is there a royal connection? Former Israeli spy Ari Ben Menashe, who worked for Robert Maxwell, the late disgraced British tabloid Daily Mirror owner, joins me now via Skype from Montreal in Canada. Ari, thanks for coming on. I said Israeli spy because Israel denies you are a spy, despite the U.S. jury verdict that you acted for Israel. Tell me about being a spy and why, when you talk about geopolitics, you're not more fearful of assassination.
I live in Canada, and I wrote a book. It's all out there, and I hope for the best.
Of course, it's a book that came out some years ago. Now, Jeffrey Epstein is dead. Now, Ghislaine Maxwell, there are reports she's in Paris. You maintain that it was your employer, Robert Maxwell, owner of the Daily Mirror. You say that he was an Israeli agent, and as was his daughter.
He was not my employer. I would like to correct that.
Okay.
We worked together with him.
And you say that his daughter, Ghislaine, also, though, worked for Israel, and it was Robert Maxwell who introduced Jeffrey Epstein to Ghislaine Maxwell way before the 1990s, as mainstream media is reporting.
Correct. Mr. Epstein was introduced to Ms. Maxwell probably sometime in the 80s. And Mr. Maxwell also thought he might be introducing a fellow to date his daughter. He tried to do a favor to his daughter, to find her a shidduch, as they say in Hebrew, a match.
Okay, and that didn't really quite work out. I suppose what the most alarming allegations that you've been making are that the entire Epstein operation was a honey trap operation to entrap politicians, policymakers, celebrities, people in the media eye, basically to become Israel's assets.
Correct. That it became basically an intelligence operation to entrap different politicians around the world.
Tell me about what evidence you have for this.
At this point, this is all I can say. That's what it was
because,
at the time.
Because the mainstream media narrative is, we don't know about Ghislaine Maxwell. She denies all wrongdoing. And basically, Epstein was a pedophile and was a successful banker. He made lots of money, and he was a criminal pedophile, and he died in a jail awaiting justice. That's the story. Nothing to do with Mossad, nothing to do with Israeli military intelligence, nothing to do with Israel.
Yeah, they would deny it. It's a real bad story, and they would deny it. But he was put straight with the Israelis by Robert Maxwell at the time, a military intelligence, and started working there for them.
I mean, I'm sure Israel's ambassador to London would deny that. Over here, obviously, Prince Andrew is a big story because he's supposed to be the Queen's favorite son. What do you think?
Prince Andrew is a different story. Prince Andrew wasn't being blackmailed. He was being used as a useful idiot. And he was bringing in some of the celebrities to get blackmailed.
Now, I can't ask you for your sources, but when things have been written about this, Ehud Barak has been named as part of this operation. Tell me about whether you think Barak would have been aware of these operations. Well,
Ehud Barak was at some point head of military intelligence in Israel. And he apparently was very friendly with Epstein. And yeah, he probably would have known about it.
The problem, Harry, with your accusations and allegations are that you're not providing any evidence that Israel was part of running Jeffrey Epstein.
Well, again, Maxwell was working for Israel. The Epstein was working for Maxwell at the time, and he was introduced to Maxwell's daughter, and they were introduced to Israeli intelligence. How much more evidence? I cannot give you photos of them working for Israeli intelligence. This is all I can tell you.
The problem, Mary, is that you're making these allegations without any evidence, other than circumstantial evidence, arguably, that Israel is involved.
That's fine. I was asked. I'm giving you my take on it.
So, what do you think about Epstein's death? A lot of people suspicious about it, although it was ruled a suicide by New York's chief medical examiner, despite Epstein's brother alleging it was murder.
I was in that facility, exactly in that facility. It would almost be impossible to commit suicide there unless you had outside help.
Now, I'm not alleging that Black Cube has anything to do with this. What do you know about Black Cube, a private Israeli intelligence company which has reputedly been hired to intimidate people chasing down the Epstein story?
I was not in the intelligence service at this time. I really can't comment about that.
Do you think when you heard the news that Epstein had apparently committed suicide, did you see any echoes of your former colleague, the disgraced Daily Mirror proprietor Robert Maxwell, when he died on his boat?
Yeah, I said it to a colleague. I said, first Maxwell dies the way he dies, and now this guy.
But no one's saying that Israel killed their agent, Robert Maxwell. After all, you, as you said, you allege Robert Maxwell was an Israeli agent as well.
Yes, he worked with the Israelis. That's right.
So who would have killed Robert Maxwell?
Well, again, at the time he was in real trouble over the pension funds. The British police were about to arrest him over pension funds fraud, and the Israelis were terrified that once he's arrested, he'd start telling stories.
See, what surprises me when you say that there's no evidence you can give me to suggest even that Israel was behind Epstein's entire career. It was none other than Alex Acosta, Trump's now resigned labor secretary, who said when he was in charge of the plea deal over Epstein, he said he belonged to intelligence. What do you think Acosta meant by that?
Epstein and his deal, and this goes back about 10 years ago, it was a very strange and generous deal. Surprising deal for a man that was accused of abusing young girls. It was a very surprising deal. So I suppose somebody was helping him. Somebody was behind him, helping him to get out of real trouble.
But when Trump's former labor secretary, Acosta, says he belonged to intelligence, you think he means Israeli intelligence, not U.S. intelligence?
Correct. I think he meant Israeli intelligence. That's right.
Your allegations about involvement in blackmail plots, I mean, do you think that, ironically, the rape survivor, Virginia Roberts Giuffre, signed Epstein's death warrant when she filed suit?
I believe that's what made whomever kill him, because if this lawsuit would have gone forward, there would have been a lot of revelations. Nobody wanted those revelations.
You see, you run a big lobbying firm now. Dickens and Madsen. The company's in the news at the moment because of what's happening in Libya. What do you know of General Haftar, whose fortunes rise and wane depending on battles in Libya, where, of course, Britain bombed?
I believe that the Eastern government of Libya should get rid of him and try to form a transitional government with some elements in Tripoli, not Sarraj.
Yeah, the former British ambassador to Libya told us things were not going swimmingly, but the UN-recognized government in Libya is the one to support, and that's the one that will win in the end. You don't think so?
I don't think so. I don't think so. But I think there has to be a government, a compromise government between the two sides, because they're both pretty powerful elements in Libya. And General Haftar really has to go, and so does Mr. Sarraj, because they're both very, how do you say, very stubborn people that all they care about is themselves being on top.
You don't think General Haftar is still a CIA asset?
No, I don't think he is, or if he was in the past, I don't think he is right now. My understanding was that he was being helped by various countries, and he's just too stubborn a character to deal with.
Any news on Saif Gaddafi? Some say he could unite Libya.
I just don't see it because of his name. Outside, they won't accept him because of his name, and he has ICC charges against him. And then inside Libya, they're saying, we have been fighting for 9 years. Do we go back to the same thing we started with?
Just finally, Trump wants to sanction anyone doing business with the ICC. Trump seems to be in favor of the Israeli annexations planned this week. What do you think the Palestinians' reaction to further annexation of the West Bank will be?
I don't know about the Palestinian reaction, but this annexation is making Israel more of an anathema to the rest of the world. And if I were the Israelis at this point, genuinely go for a two-state solution as outlined in the Oslo Agreement 30 years ago. And they should honor that agreement.
Harry Ben Menashe, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's it for the show. We'll be back on Wednesday on the 18-year anniversary of the establishment of the ICC, now sanctioned by the US President Donald Trump for daring to open an investigation into US war crimes in Afghanistan. Until then, wash your hands and join the underground on YouTube.